Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, friends and colleagues from across the world. Today we have a special guest for our third session Podinar, Dr. Bonnie Ray. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, this afternoon, and this evening to all my international colleagues. Thank you.
So I understand you're actually not airing from California or Florida, where you usually practice, but you're in an outside country. Where are you currently at?
That's correct. I am in a beautiful mountain town in Mexico. So I'm in San Miguel de Allende.
Wow, that's exciting. So Dr. Ray, before I introduce you to the audience, we're going to do some housekeeping stuff, but the topic today is endocannabinoid system and Zilis products. We look forward to learning more about that new trend and shortly introducing you with your wonderful career that you have had over the years. A very exciting career at that. But let's go ahead and get started with our housekeeping stuff. All right, friends and colleagues, the world's top 100 doctors concept, the doctor-to-doctor movement, has tremendously expanded. This year, we are looking at not only dentistry, but also pharmacy, optometry, chiropractic, and philosophy and healthcare divisions. So if you have colleagues that you wish to nominate, we just released the 22 class. It's under top100doc.com. There's a nomination tab that you can click, and it's a very short form to fill out what the election committee will need to review your credentials. And also another way of getting a better viewership and our leadership actually getting to know you is to book a Podinar, and you can do that under the Podinar section, and you do that as a speaker. And one of the hosts will come in and host your session. You are on a Podinar right now, so this is what how it will play out. We have also just launched the first real global degree, the Doctorate of Healthcare Business, which is half the equation in our professional and clinical and other business settings. And it's introduced by the Global Summits Institute, and it's accredited by the HEX Commission in terms of Hippocratic accreditation. Our inaugural class is beginning soon, so you can visit the website to learn more about the program and all of the things that are actually relevant to doctors versus the conventional schools that they're about 20 years behind on general. So faculty and syllabi can be found there and how to enroll. We invite you to do those. We're doing also a mini-series every weekend about the courses and their content and the requirements, and only doctors are eligible to apply. Last but not least, we have this area here. You can go to Facebook and go under the Global Summits page here and click the photos or the videos. There's over 200 continuing education videos there that are complimentary to watch. Or you can also look at the albums to see those that are elected or part of our magazine or other endeavors that we're doing to spread the doctor-to-doctor concept, a lean system that is operated with autonomy by doctors, and we promote such to our colleagues and execute doctor-to-doctor projects. So with that said, let's jump on to our exciting lecture of the day. By the way, one more, you can claim your CE at the end of the session. There will be a link in the comment section to follow and to get CE. But Dr. Bonnie Ray, she has enjoyed a very illustrious career in dental medicine, advanced facial aesthetics, which is also now becoming more and more interesting to plastic surgeons and other medical professionals. So, and she's also the owner of Be Radiant Anti-Aging Center. I always like to now say to my friends, just be radiant, because I know Bonnie and the energy that she brings to the table. So Florida, so Bonita Springs, Florida, and San Diego. That's where she has anti-aging centers. And she also attended at Trinity College, Hartford, Connecticut, and is a graduate of the University of Connecticut School of Dental Medicine. Dr. Ray achieved a fellowship certificate in advanced injectables and with the renowned A4M Dubai Academy, American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Prior to attending professional school, Dr. Ray was an accomplished goldsmith and jewelry designer, having participated in numerous juried art shows throughout New England. Yes, the dentistry comes out this way as well. Dr. Ray has lived in Connecticut, New Mexico, Florida, Sultanate of Oman, and also in Mexico. Dr. Bornier had numerous advanced trainings, both here and internationally. Also provides a training program for licensed medical professionals to teach the best practices for treatment planning and delivery of care. Doctors from around the country have participated, and the testimonials are available. Dr. Ray participates and leads webinars for Zilis, CBD products, and is a certified educator for the International Academy of Aesthetics. Dr. Ray masters creative facial sculpting and enhancements for loss of volume and removal of wrinkles using combination therapies with dermal fillers, Botox, ultratherapy, PDO threads, medical grade chemical peels, and quality skincare products. So she's involved in various anti-aging academies and aesthetic institutes. And besides, your credentials go on and on. Woman of the Year, and APW, who's who in dentistry, leading physicians of the world, and also with a fun personality of enjoying her hobbies in hiking, biking, walking, riding, and also interested in cultures, yoga, teaching, wellness, and other languages. Wow, you are way too young for all this, Doc.
I was just going to say that just shows how old I am.
No, you're doing something right. It's always a pleasure being around you. So this is a hot topic going on in medicine, the use of CBD products and their effectiveness versus conventional big pharma type materials. Tell us about it. It's natural. What led you in that direction, and are there facial applications?
Thank you so much. And that was exhausting listening to my life. Yes, I have enjoyed all those things and more. And so with the pandemic that came upon us in 2020, many things changed for me professionally regarding how I was practicing and what my focus has been. So interestingly, 4 years ago, I took my first course on endocannabinoids through the ADA. And it was one of the offerings for a continuing ed course, and I was fascinated. So I had been fairly well educated in nutrition over the years, and I was familiar with the concept of adaptogens, which are ingredients or things that turn into whatever they need to, right? So I often think of progenitor cells, you know, from biochemistry days, kind of like stem cells. Depending on the environment you put them in, they react accordingly. So I was fascinated, and then I was on a mission to find good quality cannabinoid. So I was buying everything out of Colorado because that's where it was all being sold. And I was trying things, and I noticed a few improvements, primarily with sleep. But month over month, the product didn't taste the same. It didn't smell the same. And much of it, I didn't appreciate the packaging because it had marijuana leaves. And so here I had a high-end boutique style aesthetic practice. I didn't want a product that looked like, you know, a head shop. So I kept searching, and finally, about a year and a half after that course that I took, I was introduced to the products of Zilis. So with that being said, may I share the screen or do my screen share?
Yes, please give us your presentation and intro, and let's look at this case study. Okay.
So what if I told you that there is a supplement that your body is actually hardwired to need? It's something that people think was recently discovered, but I like to say it's been rediscovered because it's actually something that's been used since 1500 BC as a natural remedy. And there are thousands of documented clinical studies. So would you know what I'm talking about? Well, I think because of the title of the presentation, you have an idea or a clue. And so what is hemp? In the beginning, even I was very confused, thinking it's extracts from marijuana. And many people still believe that that's what it is. Many people are trying to make their own. And what they're doing is they're soaking marijuana in olive oil or coconut oil, letting it saturate for a week, removing the greens and selling that or marketing that as CBD, and that's not the case. What is hemp? Well, the genus is Cannabis sativa L. And the difference is, I used to describe it as like hemp is the mother plant. So it's the concept, or the analogy would be citrus, right? Oranges are a type of citrus, grapefruit are another type of citrus. So hemp and marijuana differ in one most important factor, and that is the percentage or the level of THC that the plant has. So hemp that we are using in these products are certified less than 0.3% THC. Now, historically, hemp was very well known as a key raw material for textiles, fabrics, clothing, ropes, rigging, paper, packing materials, car parts, interestingly, parachute webbing, and baggage. And the industry is re-looking at those uses even today. In 1938, Popular Mechanics magazine published an article about hemp would be used for over 25,000 different products. It's also a fantastic vegan protein source. The seeds contain an abundance of nutrients like amino acids and essential fatty acids like the omega-3 and omega-6. Hemp's recent popularity, as you mentioned, Dr. Shah, is highly related to the increase in the therapeutic research for the benefits in medicine. So the cannabinoids and terpenes in particular. So research actually started a long time ago, back in the 1940s, and was even further studied in more detail in the 1960s. And that's when Dr. Raphael, I will always mispronounce his name, and I don't want to because he deserves the credit, Mechulam from Israel, was the scientist that isolated the first CBD and THC molecules. Because they come from plants, they're known as phytocannabinoids. So the CBD for the endocannabinoid system provides support. How does it do so? And that's what we're going to get more in detail. We're going to look at in more detail. CBD can support deficient levels of endocannabinoids. So what does it mean to be an endo? As we know, it means from the inside. So our body is able to and has been over the centuries producing our own cannabinoids. But we've become deficient for a variety of reasons. Our lifestyle, we can go, that's a whole other conversation. But also, when the plant became illegal in the 30s, the livestock were stopped being fed the hemp plant. And so even the foods we were consuming were now deficient in the cannabinoids. The other very fascinating aspect to the endocannabinoid system is it's as unique as our fingerprints, which I find fascinating. And this ties into why when people consume the products, it can have a different effect for everybody. So whatever ails them, whatever conditions you're starting with, everybody will see improvement regardless of what the condition is, because it's a product that is providing us nutrition at the cellular level. So that's why it's supporting our systems. It's really the original personalized medicine. So what are these cannabinoids? Well, the term cannabinoid refers to every chemical substance that acts on cannabinoid receptors that are naturally found in the body. The research has found that the hemp plant contains over 100 cannabinoids. Research in the 60s showed that although the chemical structures of CBD and THC were similar, their effect on the body was very different. The two most abundant cannabinoids are CBD and THC. One of the studies that Dr. Mechulam did, along with a pediatric oncologist, was to provide varying doses at different intervals for children who were being treated for cancer and were suffering terribly from the effects from the drugs, medications that they were being given. They established a double-blind study, and within a week, the lead scientist said, I'm stopping this study. It is too obvious who is getting the THC and CBD and who is not getting. It's no longer a blind study. So they made it an open study, and all the children benefited. They stopped their vomiting. They stopped having the severe symptoms. And sadly, Dr. Melchiman states in a wonderful video that you can look up on YouTube, it's called The Scientist, that highlights his career. And he makes the saddest statement that is like, unfortunately, I didn't have much influence with the oncologists. And I think sadly, it's still too true today that mainstream medicine, dentistry, all disciplines have overlooked. So my job, my mission, my heart and passion is now to share, impart information so we as practitioners can really offer something profound to help people. What is CBD? So CBD is the best known cannabinoid, and it's called cannabidiol. It's one of the most abundant compounds in the hemp plant. It has surprising therapeutic potential and is essential to supporting inner balance and overall health and wellness of many of our body's systems. So I think people sometimes when they think of inner balance, they think more of meditation and yoga. Those disciplines also stimulate our own body's production of our endocannabinoids. But in order to function optimally, we all know the whole system has to be in balance. In dentistry, what happens if our bite, our occlusion is out of balance? Negative sequelae occur, right? So balance is key. The World Health Organization has listed several studies that demonstrated the reduction of pain perception following the intake of CBD. And that's just but one of many studies. Well, how does the CBD interact with the body? The CBD and most cannabinoids are named so as they interact with the network of cannabinoid receptors found in the body and brain of all of us, and all vertebrates have the same system. Receptors weren't discovered until I want to say it was the late 80s. And that changed so many things because like every other system in our body, once we discover that we have if we use the analogy of a lock and key, if we have the lock, it must mean our body also has the key, right? And so that's what the lights went on and went crazy when we discovered that we have these cell receptors. Let's see how we can maximize and make good use of it. So the cannabinoid receptors are present not only in one system, but in every system throughout the body: skin, immune cells, bone, fat tissue, liver, pancreas, skeletal muscle, the heart, blood vessels, kidneys, and the GI tract. This is why a given individual can consume this CBD, and as a side effect, they might be taking it to have more energy or to sleep better, but other things improve. So maybe their back doesn't hurt, or after exercise, they don't have that muscle fatigue they were experiencing. Many cardiologists are weaning their patients off of high blood pressure medication because the blood pressure is now in balance. They're able to minimize and decrease cholesterol meds. So many other effects that weren't the intended reason why somebody started consuming it, but are being reported. So how does the body deal with this? Well, the cannabinoid receptors, as I mentioned, weren't discovered until 1988. We have two different types of receptors. So they've called them CB1, CB2. The diagram on the right shows in a color coding the two different receptor types and where they're predominantly found in the body. So the discovery of the CB1, CB2 uncovered new neurotransmitters, okay? And that's where once they discovered receptors, they started looking for, okay, what goes on these receptors? What can we do with them? So how does the CBD interact with the body? Again, it discovered and uncovered new naturally occurring neurotransmitters. It was a doctor who was working with Dr. Melchiman, Bill Devane, who said, if I discover it, can I name it? So he's the one who named the anandamide, and it comes from a Sanskrit word. So those of you who study ancient techniques and practices with yoga will have heard of it. It's considered the BLISS molecule. So the AEA and 2AG were named endocannabinoids as they're naturally occurring inside of the human body. Because of the discovery, scientists discovered an unknown molecular signaling system within the body that's involved in regulating a broad range of biological functions. Again, it goes back to why do people have different benefits by consuming the same product. They named the system the endocannabinoid system. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more detail. Once again, the endocannabinoid receptors, they're a variety and they are everywhere throughout the body. The center of the slide, you see the nomenclature for the molecules that are there, and we also have the enzymes that produce and break down. Okay, so it's a whole system that we can produce it, we can attract it and hold on to it in our receptors, and our body also has enzymes to break them down. So this network of receptors, well, it helps to regulate wellness, inner balance, or homeostasis in so many ways. Now, we never make medical claims for sure, but when you start getting reports back from whoever is taking it, and even your own stories, I would love to hear from you, because I have my own story of what it did for me, what it did for my teenage daughter, what it did for my anxious little puppy dog, and from a plethora of patients. So many people would send me messages within days of starting the products and report what they were experiencing. So it improves nerve function, sensation levels, anxiety levels, sleep. Many studies have been done on epileptic seizure activity, nerve growth, repair, attention. So many conditions that exist today that we all see in our patient population and our friends and family as well, fall into one, if not more, of these categories. Movement coordination, immune system activity. I mean, how important is it, especially now in the past year and moving forward, is having a strong immune system? I think we're understanding that in so many more ways than we used to. Inflammation, injury repair, it's a very potent anti-inflammatory. Energy intake and storage, so that also helps us control appetite and metabolism. So whether you have a tendency to hold on to the pounds or you can't hold on to the pounds, either way, it's going to help you to maintain and manage weight. Cell life cycles, reproduction, hormone levels, circulatory system, bone metabolism, osteoclast activity, mood, memory, motor control, again, appetite and sleep. Once again, the anandamide molecule has been called the BLISS molecule. This is part of the system that is responsible for the runner's high. So people who run marathons and they report at a certain number of miles after the pain, they start feeling elated and no pain. And you know, that is this system, and that is this molecule that has kicked in. It was discovered in Israel in 1992, mostly active at CB1 receptor sites. Deficiency increases imbalances. Okay, so this is key, because when we can feed our systems and put ourselves in balance and take care of that deficiency, so many other things improve. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, when you meditate, so people who are very serious meditators into yoga, and not just the stretching kind, but the meditative kind, get that same rush or bliss that the runners get. CBD can support deficient levels of the endocannabinoids. Every ECS is unique, like a person's fingerprint, as we had mentioned. So there's a supplement that our body is actually hardwired to need, okay? And if we don't have it, we see the negative effects from that. So my search for that year and a half and how it led finally to Zilis products. Zilis is the leader in the industry, and they've created what they call ULTRACELL. So what is ULTRACELL? It is the unique and proprietary technology that the company has formulated for all of their CBD products. It's designed by a team of experts. I believe they're 18 scientists, and they've taken an oil and they've made it water dispersible, and therefore it's able to be utilized much more efficiently by our body. There was a study done by the Mayo Clinic several years ago, I want to say 2017, where they took blood levels of participants every hour. And what they showed was within 1 to 2 hours, 94% of the Zilis CBD was absorbed, and that high percentage was maintained over 12 hours. They stopped the study at 12 hours, so it's very possible it stays longer, but we can assert it's definitely at that level for up to 12 hours. They've also demonstrated the technology in clinical research that was conducted, and also the numerous testimonials from ambassadors as well as customers of the product are amazing. If you don't see it for yourself, I've heard stories where if I didn't know for a fact it was true, it sounds too good to be true. The products are very user friendly, and the diagram shows, or the picture shows, we even have a product salmon flavored, particularly for pets. The products are made from hemp grown without pesticides, and the cannabinoids are extracted using CO2 to avoid using harsh chemicals during processing. This is also something very important to know about other products if you are familiar with them. Not all products are created equal, as we know in our own fields. The ULTRACELL contains as many of the compounds of the original hemp plant as possible. And why is that important? Why is full spectrum so much more robust than an isolate of a molecule? Well, like everything else in nutrition, in other body systems, it requires other compounds to maximally function. And so they've found in particular that these compounds work together synergistically to provide the full spectrum benefits. That leads to what's called the entourage effect. So in my experience, in my practice, years ago, I think it was in the early 80s, I took a course with Ken Hargreaves on pain management. And that's where I learned about the importance and the effectiveness of combining acetaminophen with ibuprofen, how each one exponentiates or makes the other work better, and that combination is more effective than any opioid that we could prescribe. So early on in my career, that was my go-to for pain control for my patients. And so I feel very good that I never contributed to the opioid crisis, but it's the same concept where 1 + 1 is not 2, it's so much more than that. Okay, because of how everything needs to work together. Several studies have demonstrated the reduction of uncomfortable stimuli following intake of CBD. When CBD is combined with other cannabinoids, it can cause an even greater reduction in the noxious perception. This research supports the importance of the entourage effect to benefit health, using the synergistic effects of all the compounds found in hemp versus only using isolated compounds. And that's what is so powerful about the entourage effect. Well, Zilis is a very forward-thinking company. They were the first ones, and I believe only company that isolated another cannabinoid. And since this presentation, they have even more in their portfolio of products. So they have isolated what is CBG, or cannabigerol. So cannabigerol is also a cannabinoid. The acidic form is CBG, that's what we use, but it comes from the CBGA, and that's the parent compound for the other cannabinoids, including CBDA, THCA, CBCA, and CBG. It does not convert to THC or CBD in humans because we lack the enzymes for it to do so. The CBG rarely occurs on its own because it converts to other cannabinoids so rapidly, and harvesting large amounts is challenging, which makes it rare and expensive, but it's also non-intoxicating, as is the CBD. So what are the CBG benefits? Again, we go back to the concept of the entourage effect and the endocannabinoid system. It's great support for healthy immune function, reduces oxidative stress, helps support healthy bladder function, supports gut health in particular, supports healthy blood pressure, and supports healthy sleep. So these benefits alone are very valuable, but when combined with the CBD, it's magnified. So it also works on the same endocannabinoid receptors. The CBG binds to the CB2 receptors, which is present in connective tissue and all major immune tissues in the body, including every single white blood cell. CBD binds to an alternative site on the CB2 receptor. So they can be used together. They don't interfere because they're binding to different receptors. The Venn diagram demonstrates this clearly, how the effects of CBD are wonderful as standalone. Same with CBG, they're wonderful as standalone. But when you take the two of them, you get a multiplicity of benefits. And that's the power of the entourage effect. So the ULTRACELL products, each batch of ULTRACELL is tested by an independent ISO accredited third-party laboratory for cannabinoid potency, pesticides, residual solvents, heavy metals, and microbiological compounds to assure all of us that are using it that the products are the gold standard. The doctor who has worked in the largest testing lab in the US is also the president of the US Hemp Authority, and she is one of the lead directing scientists for our company, Zilis. They are proud to have this certification from the US Hemp Authority. It is the gold standard, and it's an important first step in kind of regulatory, as a regulatory agency for the industry. So again, why should everyone use Zilis? My belief is, and what I am aware of, is even lesser quality CBD has its benefits. And unlike medications and drugs, there are no negative benefits or negative effects that people often refer to as side effects. CBD and the cannabinoid products do not have that. So if we have a choice of using something that we know is being tested properly, it has the science, our body is able to absorb the majority of it, and it has the Hemp Authority stamp of approval, I think it's a no-brainer as to why we should be using it. Hang on one second. There we go. I want to give special thanks and acknowledgement to Dr. Mariel Weintraub. She is the Zilis Director of Scientific Research and Development, and put this beautiful scientific presentation together. Now, when I'm talking to my patients, when I'm talking to others around the world about these products, I don't go into nearly this detail about the endocannabinoid system. It's not a requirement. What I implore and encourage all of you who are exposed to this presentation to do, get the products in your own system, see for yourself, and get it into your circle of influence and your patients, and watch for yourself what happens. Then I would love to have a conversation by WhatsApp, email, telephone, smoke signals, however, 6 weeks from now, and hear your stories, hear what you have seen to be true for yourself. The beautiful thing about these products is I can be so confident to say, don't take my word for it, get it into your body and to other people's bodies and see for yourself what unfolds. And if we can help everyone who we expose to the products and the information to wean off of the harsh medications or to improve their conditions with whatever systems support they need, it's very, very gratifying, and it's one way moving forward. Whether we ever experience what we've experienced this past year where we're kind of shut down, we can still be of value in helping serve a hurting world in more ways than one. There's several different ways that you can get packets or products into your own hands. And there's information that I will leave you at the last slide for contacting me directly. I've left the website, zilis.com/7161777 will take you to a page where you can explore, read what you'd like. There is also a blog that's called blog.zilis.com, and full of information. Wonderful colleagues have written articles. There's, I think, currently an article by a dentist, physicians, the world of technology, all kinds of useful information, and you can educate yourselves further. Lastly, I just want to point out for my colleagues who may have interest, I do have 3 courses on the platform for International Academy of Aesthetics. 2 are aesthetic related and 1 is on the endocannabinoids. Our products are currently sold in the US, most of the European Union, and most of Latin America. And here is my contact information. So I will leave this up for a few moments. And certainly if anyone has questions that I can answer right now, reach out to me any way that suits you. And thank you so much for your time and attention. And it's truly an honor to be among you. I hold you all in very high esteem, and thank you so much.